I used to think my parents were fair people. Maybe not perfect, but fair. Growing up, I believed they tried to treat me and my sister equally, though deep down I always sensed the difference. My sister, Megan, was their golden child. She could mess up and it was just a mistake. I could do the same thing and suddenly I was disrespectful, ungrateful, or difficult. Still, I never really confronted it. I had a decent job, my own car, and a small apartment not far from their house. Megan, on the other hand, had 2 kids, a husband who barely worked, and a life that always seemed to fall apart. And every time it did, guess who my parents ran to for help? Yep, me. It was a Thursday afternoon when my mom called. Her voice was unusually cheerful, which immediately made me suspicious. "Hey, honey, do you have plans this weekend?" she asked. I paused, waiting for the favor that was definitely coming. Not really. Why?" "Well," she began, dragging it out, "your dad and I wanted to borrow your car for the weekend. Ours needs some work done on it, and you know how unreliable it's been lately." I hesitated. My car wasn't fancy, but it was mine, the one thing I'd bought with my own savings. I used it every day for work, errands, everything. Still, it was my parents. Saying no would instantly make me the bad guy. "Sure," I said, finally. "Just take care of it, okay?" Mom laughed. "Of course, sweetie. We'll treat it like it's our own." That line would haunt me later. Saturday evening, I was home watching a movie when I noticed something strange. My phone pinged. A message from a family friend. "Didn't know you're in town. Saw your car at Megan's place. You guys having a party?" I froze. My car? At Megan's house? I immediately called Mom, but she didn't pick up. Then I tried Dad, straight to voicemail. I even texted Megan, pretending to be casual. "Hey, you guys having fun tonight?" No reply. Something in my gut told me this wasn't just a misunderstanding. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house to wait for them. When they pulled into the driveway, my car looked like it had been through a battlefield. The front bumper was scratched, the back seat was covered in crumbs, and the smell, oh God, the smell was like someone had spilled juice, milk, and maybe a dirty diaper all at once. I stood there completely stunned. Mom got out first, cheerful as ever. "We had such a nice weekend, honey. Oh, about the car." "Yeah," I interrupted, my voice shaking. "What happened to it?" Dad sighed. "Well, your sister's van broke down again, so we thought we'd lend your car for a day. The kids must have made a bit of a mess." "A bit?" I snapped. "There's food ground in the seats. There's a dent on the bumper." Mom raised her hands defensively. "Don't overreact, dear. They're just kids." "Then their parents should take responsibility," I shot back. But of course, in their eyes, I was the problem. I spent the rest of that day cleaning my car. Every time I found another stain or scratch, I got angrier. Not just at Megan, but at my parents. They'd taken something I trusted them with, used it for someone else, and acted like it was no big deal. Later that evening, Megan called. "Hey," she said, casually, like nothing happened. "Mom told you were upset. Chill out, it's just a car." I could feel my pulse in my ears. "Just a car? You trashed it." "Oh, please, the kids might have spilled a few snacks. You're overdramatic, as always." That was the moment something in me snapped. I decided then, no more favors, no more free rides, no more being the good child. When my parents called the next week asking if I could drive Megan's kids to their dentist appointment because she was busy, I simply said, "No, sorry, I have work." Mom's voice turned cold. "You've really changed lately." Maybe. Or maybe I just stopped letting people take advantage of me. She didn't respond, just hung up. But the story didn't end there, because 2 weeks later, I learned why my parents had been so eager to borrow my car that weekend and what they'd really done with it. And that truth was something I never saw coming. 2 weeks had passed since the car incident, but the anger still burned quietly inside me. I tried to move on, but every time I got into that car, I was reminded of the betrayal. The sticky cup holder, the faint smell of juice, the tiny shoe prints on the seats. I thought it was over, but it wasn't. One Friday night, I stopped by a small convenience store near Megan's neighborhood after work. As I was heading back to my car, I noticed something. A familiar scratch pattern on a gray SUV parked a few feet away. My heart dropped. It wasn't just a similar scratch. That was my car. Except it wasn't. It looked exactly like mine. Same model, same color, but mine was at home in the garage. Or at least, it should have been. I walked closer, confused. Then I saw something hanging from the rearview mirror, a gold star-shaped keychain. The same keychain I'd bought for Megan's son last Christmas. My stomach twisted. Was it possible that she'd been using my car more than I thought? I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I went home, opened my car's glove compartment, and noticed something off. The registration paper wasn't where I usually kept it. Someone had gone through my things. And tucked underneath the seat, half stuck in the carpet, was a small folded receipt. It was from a local rental agency, dated the same weekend my parents had borrowed my car. The total? $1,200. The renter's name? Megan Thompson. I felt my chest tighten. I grabbed my phone and called my mom. "Hey, sweetheart," she said in her usual cheerful tone. "Mom," I said, trying to sound calm, "why is there a rental receipt under my seat with Megan's name on it?" There was a pause, too long to be innocent. Finally, she said, "Oh, that. Well, we might have used your car as a trade-in temporarily while we helped Megan get a rental. Her van was beyond repair." I blinked. "You traded in my car without telling me?" No, she rushed to say. "It wasn't a trade-in, just paperwork. We used your car's registration to get her a good rate. You know how expensive rentals can be?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You used my name and my registration to rent a car for Megan?" "Technically, yes," she admitted, "but we meant well. We didn't want her struggling with the kids all weekend." Meant well. Those two words, they always use them to justify everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed everything, every time they'd chosen Megan over me, every favor that turned into a burden, every guilt trip that made me feel selfish for wanting boundaries. This wasn't just about the car. This was about years of being treated like the backup plan. So, the next morning, I decided to visit Megan. When she opened the door, she looked surprised. "Wow, you actually came by." "Yeah," I said. "I just wanted to ask, did you know Mom and Dad used my name to rent you that SUV?" She shrugged. "Of course I did. Mom said you wouldn't mind." "Wouldn't mind?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You used my registration, my insurance, my everything, and didn't think to ask me?" "You're so dramatic. It's not like you're hurting for money. You've got a good job, no kids, no real responsibilities. You can afford to help out your family once in a while." That line hit me harder than I expected. "So, because I've managed to keep my life together, I'm just supposed to pay for everyone else's messes?" "Wow," she said sarcastically, crossing her arms. "You've really turned into someone bitter." I stared at her, realizing she wasn't even sorry. I left without another word. But as I was walking away, her husband called out, "Hey man, thanks for helping with the rental. The kids love that car." That was it, the last straw. I went straight to the rental agency. When I showed him the receipt and explained that I'd never authorized that rental, the manager frowned. "That's identity misuse. You could file a report if you wanted." He offered to print all documents connected to that transaction, and that's when I saw it. The rental agreement had my driver's license number and signature on it. Except it wasn't my signature. My own mother had forged it. I remember standing in the parking lot afterward, gripping the papers, my hands shaking. This wasn't just family favoritism anymore. This was fraud. That evening, I called my parents. My voice was cold, steady. "I know everything," I said. "The rental, the forged signature, all of it." Mom tried to talk over me, but I didn't let her. "You could have asked me," I said quietly. "You could have told me the truth, but instead you used me like I was just another tool to fix your golden child's problems." Dad finally spoke. "We were just trying to help your sister. And you destroyed my trust. You don't help someone by breaking another person's boundaries." There was silence. Then Mom whispered, "You wouldn't really report this, would you?" I took a deep breath. "I don't know. But you need to understand. I'm done being the one you take advantage of." And then, for the first time in my life, I hung up on them. For days after that, the silence was heavy. No calls, no messages, not even a passive-aggressive text. Until one evening when I came home to find an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a letter, handwritten, shaky, from my dad. "We didn't mean to hurt you. Your mother panicked when Megan called crying that weekend. We thought we were helping. You've always been the strong one. Maybe we leaned on you too much. But please don't turn your back on us completely." At the bottom was another note in my mom's handwriting. "We're sorry. We'll fix this. Just come home for dinner Sunday." But when Sunday came, I didn't go. Because for the first time in my life, I finally understood that forgiveness didn't mean allowing someone to hurt you again. I thought that was the end of it. But then a few weeks later, something happened that changed everything again. Something that made me question whether walking away had been the right choice or the biggest mistake of my life.
3 weeks had gone by since that last phone call. The silence from my parents was heavy, almost haunting. At first, it felt good, peaceful even. For once, there were no guilt trips, no last-minute family emergencies, no last-minute favors that turned my weekends into rescue missions. But as the days went on, that silence started to feel different. Not peaceful, just empty. Every time my phone buzzed, I found myself hoping it was my dad. Every time I drove past their street, I'd glance at their house without meaning to. I told myself I was done with them, but some part of me still wanted to believe that things could go back to normal. Then, one night, around 11:30 p.m., my phone finally rang. It was Megan. "Hey," she said, her voice trembling. Instantly, my stomach dropped. "Megan, what's wrong?" "It's Dad," she whispered. "He's in the hospital." My heart froze. Apparently, Dad had collapsed earlier that evening while fixing a light in the garage. A mild heart attack, the doctors said. He was stable now, but they wanted to keep him for observation. I didn't even think. I just grabbed my jacket, keys, and rushed to the hospital. When I got there, Mom was sitting in the waiting room, eyes red, clutching a cup of cold coffee. The moment she saw me, she stood up, hesitant, almost afraid. "You came," she said softly. "Of course I came." For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The tension between us was thick, like there were 100 words waiting to be said, but neither of us knew where to start. Finally, she whispered, "He keeps asking for you." When I walked into Dad's room, he looked smaller somehow. pale, weak, but still trying to smile. "Hey, kiddo," he said. I sat beside him. "You scared the hell out of us." He chuckled faintly. "Didn't mean to." There was a pause. Then, in a tired voice, he said, "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. What we did was wrong. But I need you to understand something." He looked at me with watery eyes. "When your sister calls crying, your mom can't say no. She can't. She thinks if she keeps fixing Megan's problems, maybe someday she'll stop making them. And I just go along because I don't want to see your mother break down." I didn't say anything. He continued, "You were never the problem, son. You were just the one who didn't need saving. And somehow that made us forget you needed care too." That hit harder than I expected. After a long silence, I finally spoke. "I wasn't mad because you helped her. I was mad because you didn't think I deserved the truth." Dad nodded slowly. "You're right, and I'm sorry. I just hope you don't shut us out forever. Family, it's messy, but it's all we've got." I wanted to say I'd forgiven him. I wanted to tell him that everything was fine. But I couldn't. Not yet. So instead, I just reached out and held his hand. And in that moment, no words were needed. Over the next few days, Dad's condition improved. I started visiting regularly, helping Mom with groceries, driving her back and forth from the hospital. Megan came around too, but she mostly stayed quiet. I think even she realized how badly things had spiraled. One evening, as we were leaving the hospital, Mom stopped me by the parking lot. "There's something I want to show you," she said. She opened her purse and handed me a small folded paper. It was a receipt from an auto detailing shop. "We had your car cleaned, inside and out, and we fixed the dent on the bumper. It's not much, but we wanted to do something right." I looked at her speechless. For the first time in a long while, it felt like she was really trying to understand, not just excuse. "Thank you," I said, quietly. When Dad was finally discharged, we all gathered at my parents' house for dinner. It was awkward at first, but different, lighter somehow. Megan didn't talk much, but at one point she looked at me and said, "Hey, I'm sorry for everything." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. As I sat there watching my family, my imperfect, messy, infuriating family, I realized something. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It doesn't fix everything overnight. But sometimes it's the only way to move forward. Not for them, but for you. Later that night, before heading home, Dad called out from the porch. "Hey, Tito, about that car. You should know, it runs smoother than ever now." I smiled. "Good, because next time, if anyone wants to borrow it," he laughed, "they'll have to go through me." We both smiled. For the first time in a long time, it felt like we were okay. Not perfect, but okay. And maybe that was enough.